Welcome to the Doktor O'Kay Show. I am Doktor O'Kay and it is SmackDown from San Diego where we just keep making TIFF-story. So we'll get to that in a minute. So let's start with the matches and just keep asking if we can tap out. After Nia accidentally leg drops Candice, Naomi takes advantage with a full Nelson bomb to get the win. So Bianca and Naomi are the ones in this non-title match. And it was pretty much like every other match between these groups. And Naomi landed a nice split-legged moonsault, and Bianca had a spear, and eventually, as always, they found a way to win. And since Candice first joined Nia when Tiffy was sick in October, either Candice or Nia, or both of them, have been in a match against Bianca, or Naomi, or Bayley, or any combination of them in 12 out of the last 14 weeks. And for Candice in particular, she won her first match when I guess they were surprised to see her, but she's now lost each of her last 9 of those matches. But for tonight, Bianca and Naomi go to 1-0 for 2025. And that means Nia and Candice are the 2s, and Nia had a couple Samoan drops, and then they both had back-to-back sentons. I can imagine Nia's hurt a little bit more, but when she missed that leg drop and landed it on Candice instead, it cost them yet again, but they go to 0-1 in 2025. And I will say that I'm simply over this, so let's do literally anything else here, ladies. And so while the in-ring action was decent per usual, I think it's safe to say that I'm simply over it, so we'll give it a double not okay. Up next, we just keep knowing that the Tongans don't miss. Because after a spear, Big Jim lined up for an Uso splash, but he saw Jacob Fatu in the opposite corner, and then Tama Tonga pushed him off of the top ropes, so they began beating down Jimmy until Hayes tried to buddy up to them, so he paid for it with a clothesline as well. So we'll give Jimmy the ones, I guess, here. He looked like he was going to have the win, and I wanted to give him a DQ win here, but unfortunately, WWE declared this a no contest, so he still remains winless in one-on-one matches since September of 2023, and he's 0-1. And that means Carmelo Hayes is the 2s, and he had a nice springboard reverse DDT and a first 48, but he missed his nothing but net, and he paid for that with a super kick, and he too is 0-1. And that takes us to another "What were you thinking?" to the ref as the epidemic remains for yet another week as Jimmy tossed Hayes into the ring before the bell, so we have to give Jimmy a fine for that. And of course, ref, don't just immediately ring the bell. How many times do we have to say this? Anyways, Fatu and Tonga will get 1 week suspensions for causing the no contest and then continuing their beatdown. And then Solo Sikoa appeared, and the crowd very disrespectfully booed him, so he decided to drop the mic and didn't say anything before walking away, but interestingly took off his fancy jacket. So then Fatu grabbed the mic and he said that he was tired of being disrespected and that he's just getting started. However, LA Knight attacked both Fatu and Tonga from behind, so we have to give Knight a fine for that, but man, that was really dumb. That was a 1-on-2 attack, so eventually the Tongans overwhelmed him, but fortunately for Knight, he was saved by Strowman, who came on down the ramp, and we had another epic stare down between both Fatu and Strowman, and so we will see that match finally at Saturday night's main event. And we'll also get Tonga versus Knight next week on SmackDown. Well, this match was fine between 2 of the biggest losers on SmackDown. And like I said, I think Jimmy should have been granted a win here that he really needed. But unfortunately, not meant to be. And since LA Knight was also not very smart at all, we're going to give this a not okay. Up next, we just keep helping too much, as Pretty Deadly caused the perfect distraction to stop a Skull and Bones, allowing Berto to get the roll-up, but Elton Prince kept arguing for too long. So that meant Berto ended up paying for it with a double super kick and the Skull and Bones, so the Machine Guns are your #1 contenders. And that means the machine guns are the ones, and Tessitore incorrectly noted their speed. These creative fighters are about as slow as molasses. Instead, they rely on their pinpoint timing and execution, which is perfectly fine. Not everyone can be Braun Breaker running those ropes at 23 miles an hour, but let's not pretend that they're fast. They are really, really slow. Regardless, they somehow find a way to come up with a win, and they go to 2-0-1. That means Los Garza is the twos, and Berto had a really nice sit-out powerbomb before they had a team double sit-out powerbomb springboard boot. But unfortunately for Escobar, he wasted a pretty good pre-match speech as Los Garza takes the loss and they fall to 1-1. Of course, Pretty Deadly can't get away with their actions, so they will pick up fines, and then later, Tommaso Ciampa yelled at them and called them a joke backstage. Gargano then just followed up by saying it was just tough love. However, once they left, Apollo Crews told Pretty Deadly that their help is getting them nowhere. But after Pretty Deadly walked away, Gargano attacked Crews from behind and said to keep their name out of his mouth, but we'll have to give Gargano a 1-week suspension. Now this match, back to it, had some pretty nice teamwork and also some overhelping, but we'll give it an okay. Next, we just keep stopping another streak as B-Fab finally gets a one-on-one match, but she decides to clothesline Chelsea at ringside. That allowed Piper to immediately take advantage for a senton and a Piper driver so that she finally gets a win. So Piper is the ones, and she was actually being out-wrestled by B-Fab. And she was also yet again unhelped by Chelsea. However, when she saw an opening, she took it, and she really needed to because she had lost 13 straight singles matches dating all the way back to October 16th, 2023, and she had 9 overall match losses dating back to her tag win with Chelsea on May 31st, 2024. So this stops 2 of the longest streaks in WWE, which I just ironically talked about on yesterday's video, so make sure to go back and check that out. But for today, Piper improves to 1-1. That makes B-Fab the twos, and she actually outsmarted Piper off of the bell, and then had a couple nice moves with a twisting sit-out powerbomb, a DDT, and a pair of pump kicks. But she needed to stay focused, and she didn't do that when she attacked Chelsea, so she goes to 0-1. Now, of course, after the match, Chelsea immediately attacked B-Fab, and Piper joined in, so both of them will pick up fines. But fortunately for B-Fab, Michin came out with a kendo stick and then also super kicked Piper out of the ring, so B-Fab ended up okay. But on this one, we have to say congratulations to Piper, but it's still getting a double not okay. Next, we just keep staying classy, KO, as after taking a 619, Owens accidentally stumbled into the referee and it knocked Rey off of the top rope, so KO immediately took advantage with a pop-up powerbomb for the win. So KO is the ones, and he interrupted Rey opening the show. After Rey had announced for the Royal Rumble, Owens said that he respects Rey and wants him to win it so those two can face each other at WrestleMania. However, Rey said that KO is not the champion and he's acting delusional like his son, Dirty Dom. But KO then decided to swing that Winged Eagles championship belt at Rey. Rey ducked that and got in a couple of shots before KO rolled out of the ring, which of course is still going to cost KO a fine for instigating. Nonetheless, in the match, we had very much so contrasting styles in this one, and KO also landed a stunner, but Rey kicked out of that, but he did end it with that pop-up powerbomb, so he goes to 1-0. So Rey is the twos, and he fired up so many Hurricane Ranas trying to counteract KO's much different figure. And he also had a seated senton and a wheelbarrow bulldog, a bunny destroyer, and of course, that 619, which unfortunately for him backfired, so he drops to 0-1. Now, KO shook Rey's hand after the match, but then he decided that wasn't enough with a package pile driver. So of course Cody Rhodes ran out to stop KO from doing that, which he was at least successful in. And then those two brawled for a few moments before WWE officials broke that up, but KO is gonna have to get his second fine of the night for that attack. Throughout the night, Aldis also tried and failed to get both Rhodes and Owens to sign an addendum to their ladder match contract. And so that means next week Aldis called for a contract signing on Saturday night's main event, and surprisingly enough, the HBK will be serving as the moderator. Now this was a very unique match that we hadn't seen before, and although KO is still right, it was probably best for him not to land that package pile driver, but we'll still give this one a double okay. And in our main headline and main event, we just keep making TIFF-story as Tiffy counters a rose plant into a cartwheel Alabama slam and then a prettiest moonsault ever, so she retains the WWE Women's Championship. So Tiffy is the ones, and this was by far her best effort inside the ring to date, and she landed many big moves, including an elbow that stopped Bayley in her tracks from a suicide dive. Then Tiffy put the ring drape over top of Bayley and landed a crushing hip attack up against the side of the ring. She also hit a swanton bomb into a power bomb and then followed it up with an arm wrench submission. And then later she had a spine buster before finishing it off with that prettiest moonsault ever. So she goes to 2-0 in one-on-one matches after she hadn't won a one-on-one match since last March. She had actually lost 7 in a row before winning these 2 championship matches in the last 3 weeks. And for Bayley, she is the 2s, and she also had a really good effort in this one with a pair of Bayley to bellies, a superplex, and an elbow drop off of the top rope, but she could not connect on a rose plant, so she goes to 1-1 in singles matches so far this year. Now, of course, Roxanne Perez from NXT also showed up after Bayley interrupted her on Tuesday night. And then those two had a brief argument during the match that was perhaps just enough to get Bayley off of her game and cost her. Now just think of all the frequent flyer miles that Bayley is racking up this week after being in San Jose for Raw, then flying all the way to the East Coast to Orlando for Tuesday night, and then coming all the way back to the West Coast to San Diego for tonight's SmackDown. So yeah, good for her. She's gonna get a free flight pretty soon if she keeps this up. But back to the match. This was a fantastic SmackDown main event. We have to give this one a double okay. And with that, let's go beyond the mat for SmackDown, and there's really not very much at all here, so we'll start by saying that Joe Tessitore mentioned a new collaboration between WWE and TNA, and I guess I'll have to say that I believe in this being okay. And lastly, we had a vignette for the return of our one true queen, Charlotte Flair. Now, she didn't say anything in this segment, but who cares? Our 14-time champ is finally set to come back. We just don't know exactly when that will be, and so we'll give it an okay. Yes, it was Tiffy's time tonight, but Charlotte may soon have something to say about that, just like I had something to say about all the records, streaks, and STFs, and our 2024 grades for all of the women's superstars on this week's Okay, Not Okay podcast. And if you missed that, make sure to go right on over here to check out both of those episodes. And if you do, just like we made TIFF-story this week, it will look favorably on you and you'll get an okay.